People paying money to see me in a 20-by-20 ring.
Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the 20-by-20 crew. I am your co-host Joe, and I am here with Matt. We're back this week, and we're actually watching the New Japan Pro Wrestling anniversary show in the background, for those of you who have the New Japan World subscription service. And if you don't, you can always get more information on that over at 20x20crew.com/podcast/NJPW. Look at me already trying to pay bills.
Yeah, you waste no time with that. So, you bring that up, but, I'm going to start the show by asking a very simple question. You ready for it?
I'm already married.
Oh. All right, I got another question for you. Real simple question. I have to know, are you all in?
But I know how to announce the city that All In is going to be in September 1, 2018. Chicago, Illinois. We're coming for you.
I am all in. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, us Chicagoans over here got the official announcement a day or so ago that we are going to be the recipient of probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, independent show in the States in 2018.
Right, yeah.
And this is the self-financed Young Bucks and Cody independent show called All In. It's going to take place at the Sears Center, which is actually in Hoffman Estates, which is a northwestern suburb of Chicago. Really nice venue for those who have never been there. There's not a bad seat in the house.
Yeah, we could vouch for that because
you and I have both been
there.
It was the same show. It was a TNA pay-per-view.
TNA Bound for Glory in 2008. Yep.
We were both there for that show. And
before we knew each other.
Yeah. So
we were already the ring crew before we knew it.
Exactly. Full circle. So the place itself holds, for wrestling purposes, it actually holds about 11,800 people. And I know the Bucks and Cody are looking to book at least 10,000 people.
Yeah, that was their minimum goal.
Yeah, that was their minimum goal. Partial credit to Dave Meltzer for this whole situation, because he's the one that put them up to it by basically making the statement saying that they would never be able to book a place that held 10,000 people. So, I mean, obviously, the show isn't until September 1st, and we still haven't seen how many people are actually going to turn out for this, but suffice it to say, it's looking on the bright side of the things for the Bucks.
Yeah.
Should be at least an easy 10,000. I'm not going to say it's going to be a capacity crowd, but I say 10 for sure.
I would say that 10 for sure. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I say they sell out.
Yeah.
I really do. The amount of buzz that this little show has gotten certainly has already brought the attention to a lot of wrestling fans. And I look at, especially Cody, who's a guy that I feel has so many connections in the business. I think he's going to have a lot of guys lined up to do this show, and I just really feel it's going to sell itself. I mean, it kind of already has to an extent, just by the amount of buzz that it's gotten, and we don't have a single match booked yet, of course.
That's true.
So I don't know. It's a really special kind of show. I can't recall something like this happening in my wrestling experience. I mean, this is not. You have to understand, this is not a organization, a promotion doing the show. It's three guys out of their pockets.
It's a it's probably the purest form of independent wrestling you're going to see.
Yeah, and you know what too? I mean, if you let's say you don't sell it, let's say you don't, but you're talking about the Sears Center, and you get your 10,000. A sold out crowd at a WWE show in the Allstate Arena is, I'm looking at the numbers right now, it's 18,211. So we're talking a little over 8,000 people compared to 10,000. Yes, that's a significant number, but you're also comparing WWE to three guys who are not a company. Three guys and their wallets, their pocketbooks.
And it's only a 7,000 seat difference.
Yeah,
roughly.
Right. That's pretty damn impressive. That's a really ballsy thing to do.
It's very ballsy.
And the fact that they're getting that kind of buzz, and I'm saying that they're going, I feel that they're going to sell out. That I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, that's very un-minor leaguish, if you ask me. but yeah, when I woke up to the news of Chicago being all in, it was, and I love all the wrestling cities out there, but to be from Chicago, it was definitely a sense of pride that our city was the one that won the prize, that won the show. So
hell yeah, and you know what, because let's face it, they are three of the biggest attractions out there right now that are not WWE.
Yeah.
And they have multiple affiliations for multiple companies. They're a big deal, and for them to bring that big of a deal to our neck of the woods, and I understand we're in a major market, but
yeah,
still to have the show booked here in Chicago, as opposed to other venues that they could have easily ran. It feels awesome. It really does feel awesome, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, as we get closer to the time, for all you listeners out there, we definitely want to know if you are all in, and maybe we could say hi at the show. Get to know you guys a little bit better, and get to see some of the best wrestling in the world, in my opinion. And if you're at that show, I guarantee it's of your opinion too. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a big win for Chicago. And don't take my word for it. Take many of the wrestlers' words for it. One of the greatest wrestling cities in the entire world. And that's not coming from my mouth. Well, technically it is, but yeah, I'm super excited about the show. We're definitely, as we get closer to the actual show, we'll definitely be talking more about it and hyping it up even more. But until then, all we know is that it's September 1st, Sears Center in Hoffman Estates. Can't buy tickets yet as of this recording, but that's going to be something to look forward to next. That's the next step.
There's also talk of them doing a meet and greet or like a fan access style event the day before on the 31st of August.
31st,
right? Which is a Friday night, or a Friday in general. So keep that in mind when you guys go to pick up tickets to the event. Hopefully that'll come to fruition and we get to be a part of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good thing too that Chicago got this win, because Chicago took a big loss over the current weekend. Saturday.
Why, Matt? What are you talking about?
Saturday, March 3rd, there was what I felt was a pretty intriguing house show that took place at the United Center. WWE returned to United Center, which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, 24 years? I believe 1994 was the last time that they were at the UC.
Jesus, it has been that long.
It has been that long.
Wow, okay.
So 24 years. And albeit it's a house show, so you can't expect too much, I guess. But one thing that you should be able to expect at any wrestling event is good in-ring action. One of the top billed matches was Brock Lesnar defending the WWE Universal Championship against Kane. And I can tell you this right now, me telling you the participants in the match has been longer than the actual match.
That's horrible. Jesus, that's horrible.
35 35 seconds.
Neither Matt nor myself attended the show. We did have friends that attended the show. And,
Yeah, we're sorry about that.
Yeah. Brock Lesnar actually spent more time on the ramp during his entrance than he did wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. What made matters worse, so the length of the match pissed the crowd off to no end.
Oh, yeah.
There's footage of it out there online, but to make matters worse, they as in Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, made a beeline after the match back to the backstage area, which made it look even worse on their part for doing something like that. My opinion of the match is this. I understand you're Brock Lesnar and you don't want to do business with anyone. You just want to come in, make your money, and leave as soon as possible. Even with that said, this is still sports entertainment. You still have to make it believable. And I hate to say this, but I don't care who you are, unless you're using like some sort of very heavy foreign object or a situation akin to that, you're not going to beat Kane believably in 35 seconds. You're just not. That's just the way it is. And for those of you who disagree with me, hey, we have social media you can contact us on. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/20x20crew. We're also on Twitter at 20x20crew. So, hey, come find me. Come talk to me, because that was a shit show by any other term.
When you do matches that are super short like this, I'm talking 2 minutes or less, you have to have a reason why you do that. A lot of times it's the typical squash match of somebody like an introduction to Braun Strowman facing jobbers, and he's running through jobbers, and that's it. It's just, he's just a big and strong guy. You don't need to do much else with it. You're not going to have a back and forth match with jobbers, and that's okay. And you do that on TV, you do that on television, and it showcases this monster that you're trying to make. You can do the same thing with Brock Lesnar, and that's okay to a small extent. When you're at a house show, I'm not saying you don't have characters and you don't have, the heels and the baby faces, but you're not supposed to tell stories in the sense of this guy is just that dominant, he runs through people. Not at a house show, because only people that you're entertaining is people that are in that crowd. So when you have a house show and you have a championship match, one of two results are going to usually happen. Either the champion retains via pinfall or submission, which is usually the case, which was the case in this match, or the champion can lose, but via like disqualification or count out, where the championship doesn't change hands. You're gonna have that. That's fine. You're gonna have that very basic finish. However, what you have to have in between the bells is solid in-ring action for that crowd. And I've been to WWE house shows before, and I've seen guys wrestle a hell of a lot differently than they do on the TV show, because their job is to entertain that live crowd. They do that via wrestling. Case in point, last time I went to a house show for WWE, it was about 3 years ago now. It was The Miz versus Kofi Kingston, and The Miz was all about the commercial aspect of wrestling. However, this particular night, he went in there and had a hell of a match with Kofi Kingston, and he just wrestled. Yes, he was Miz and he was talking trash and all that stuff. That's wrestling. That's fine. But he still wrestled. He still entertained that crowd to the best of his abilities. When you have a 35-second match at a house show, you are not telling any stories. You are just saying, we advertise Brock Lesnar. We're not going to let you down. We're going to give you that advertised appearance, but it's not going to be what you expect. We gave you the appearance, and that's it. And that's what happened in this case. It was, we have your money. He has to go out there and have this match. So we're going to make him do this match. And then he's going to get the hell out of Dodge because he doesn't want to do anything more. And that's it. That was the reason why they did this. I would hazard a guess is the reason why they did this. So if you're going to get me on social media, that's fine. I don't know, but I do know what I saw, and what I saw was a company that robbed an entire arena full of their money, because that was one of the top advertised matches of the night. For whatever reason, Brock Lesnar is a sell, and you fucking ripped them off by saying, all right, we're not even going to give you a goddamn minute. We're not even going to give you a minute with this guy because you're not worth it.
You know what this reminds me of? It's the Ultimate Warrior all over again. You have a guy who comes in, he doesn't want anything to do with the company more than a paycheck. He comes out, and it's essentially squash match after squash match.
Yeah.
Quick matches, in and out, boom, he's done, and he's out of the building, pretty much right after his match. And he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about the business. He doesn't give a shit about selling for anybody. There's no storytelling there. It's just this ignorant persona subjecting himself and his selfishness to the crowd. And unfortunately, back when the Ultimate Warrior era was in the WWF, he sold. He sold tickets. He drew.
Yeah.
He drew enough to where it made a little bit of a difference. And again, it parallels Lesnar. There's a lot, as many fans that are out there that agree with Matt and I. There's just as many out there, if not more, that still think Brock Lesnar is this awesome main event wrestler, and I'm sorry to say that's not the case. He's just ripping you off. But hey,
you do what you want with your money.
Yeah,
at the
you
end
do
of the
what
day.
you want.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There was and it had nothing to do with Brock Lesnar. I had thought about getting a ticket for this show, just because of the significance of it being at the UC, and it's been a long time. It's been a long time, and the United Center is a really cool venue. If you've never been there, if you're not from the area and you've never been there, it's a really cool venue to go check out. And I think it's really cool that they came back even for a house show, and I would like to have been a part of that. But then I came to my senses and said, it's WWE. They have to earn my money as far as live events go. Obviously they get my money. I've talked about it. They get my money every month with the WWE Network, but that's all they're getting from me. They have to prove themselves with better live events, be more consistent, and but that's just me. But if you're a Lesnar fan, like I'm really interested to hear what you have to think, because I mean, even if you're still a Lesnar mark, aren't you just even a little bit pissed off by this match?
Yeah,
if you're at that show and you want to see Lesnar, it's like think of it this way. I'm a huge Sting fan. He's my all-time favorite wrestler, and I pay all this money to see Sting. I don't even care who he's fighting. He's just Sting, and he goes out there and he has that 35-second match. I am pissed off. I am heartbroken. I am confused by why he would do something like this to me or to his fans. I don't get it, and I'm still a Sting mark at this point. But I'm just like, I'm starting to have second guesses,
That's a good point. I think a lot of, in this case, Brock Lesnar fans, I think they ignore that point of view. Like, it's cool. If we, as wrestling fans, Matt and I always want you to have your favorites, and
we never want to shit on your favorites.
Have your favorites and support them, and that's fine. But what this guy is doing, basically shitting on your fandom, I'm sorry to say, like, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care. It's like an abusive relationship almost.
Yeah, it very much is. No matter how many times he screws you over,
you just keep coming back.
Keep coming back for more
and giving him your money. So and that's my issue with it.
If it's the same advice that I have with people who hate Roman Reigns. If you want this guy to go away, if you're not a Lesnar fan, for the love of God, shut up when he comes out. Just don't say anything. Yeah. Don't buy those stupid Suplex City shirts. Stop buying those, because as soon as his merch goes down, he's going to go to the next promo that's going to give him money for merch. He's going to go to UFC. He's going to go to anywhere else that will take him, because he's a greedy bastard. At the end of the day, Brock Lesnar lied about retiring from the UFC. Got more money to go back to the UFC and says, I never retired. I'm back. Goes back, fails a drug test because, God forbid he does anything fairly. and says, "Oh, the UFC kissed my ass. I don't need the UFC." No, dude, you can't compete anymore because you can't fight fairly. And then now it's just like, oh, well, I'm not going to be champion anymore. What am I going to do WWE? I'll just go back to UFC. And people like this guy.
Yeah.
He's like that loser jock in high school that's just like that peaked out at the wrong time in life, and people flock towards this guy because I don't know, the shit that comes out of his mouth must taste good because I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get him. I never knew. You know how much I love Paul Heyman. I never understood what Paul Heyman saw in this dude. I really don't. Especially now. I don't get it.
He's a paycheck. That's what it is. but that's the thing. I think that's the difference between Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman at this point, is that even if Paul Heyman is treating this as, hey, I'm riding on the coattails of Brock Lesnar and this beast gimmick, Heyman still cares enough about the business to get his character over.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's going to be Paul Heyman as Paul Heyman only can be.
Yeah.
And no matter what he's doing. And right now, this is what he's doing. So you know, in that
disappointing.
In that regard, you know, it is what it is. But I guess my point here is, even after Brock Lesnar leaves the WWE, is there always a possibility of Paul Heyman sticking around and still being Paul Heyman? Of course.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
Absolutely.
that's not the same case with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. I just anybody but Brock Lesnar at this point. So, because I'm done talking about that crap. You want to say something?
Well, no, not about Brock Lesnar, but about that house show.
Yeah. You want to talk about the house show?
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily have to go over the entire card unless you want to. But
I mean, you basically saw it on Raw.
Yeah, you basically saw all the
matches.
stuff on Raw. But I did want to talk to you about the women's match with Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
And
the match, in case you don't know, is Alexa Bliss, Nia Jax, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville versus Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka, Mickie James in an 8-woman tag team match.
Now, for those of you who didn't see the match or didn't read the results, what I want to talk about is Sasha Banks' performance, and I want to know your thoughts on what is going on with her, and is she turning heel? What the hell is... I'm a little confused at this point because they book her on the babyface side of things.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
She's on the babyface team, but she's acting like a heel towards Bayley in the match. If I'm not mistaken, she also put the bank statement on Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether that was during the match or after the match, but either way. And then
It was during.
It was during.
the match,
There
yeah.
you go. So I'm not quite sure what the hell is going on here. I would like to pick your brain about that.
It's weird because the way that I would describe Sasha Banks is she's a yo-yo right now, because she's heel, then she's face again. She's heel, then she's face again. And then I don't know if you watched the Raw from a couple weeks ago, but she was in a 6-woman tag team match with Bayley as a partner. Went to do a hot tag, and then Bayley jumped off the apron, not accepting the tag and keeping Sasha to the wolf, feeding her to the wolves, if you will. Although the team still won it thanks to Asuka, it's one of those things where it's between Bayley and Sasha Banks. Now, Sasha Banks is more heelish than Bayley, but it just seems that when it comes to this, like it's besides the armbar situation with Asuka, everything heelish has been towards Bayley. We talked about the Rumble and how they dropped the ball with her being more heelish towards Asuka and everything prior to this armbar, or not the armbar, sorry, the bank statement. I don't like it because it's almost like they doing one of two things, and I'm thinking it's the latter. So the first one is they're not sure exactly what they want to do with this yet, and if it's a should I stay, should I go kind of thing when it comes to the heel part. The other one I think is just they're still building up for the Bayley Sasha Banks WrestleMania match, which I think is going to happen. Of course, that's not booked as of yet, if it will be booked. And they're just waiting until closer to WrestleMania to make the official turn. And with WWE, it could be 2 weeks prior at this point to make the official turn. I honestly, you already know where I stand with this. The Sasha Banks heel turn should have happened at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it would have made a lot more sense.
And then they did it again for Elimination Chamber, but then they keep, again, it's a yo-yo thing where she is and then she isn't. And it's very confusing because it's very clear what she could be, what she should be, but now it's this matter of, well, is she or is she not?
I guess it's a little confusing to me because me growing up on wrestling, there was kind of always a formula for testing the waters, where you would have characters or performers test the waters at house shows.
Yeah.
Untelevised events, you would have them, if they're going to turn heel or turn baby, and that's how you would use the crowd reaction to gather, hey, is this going to be a thing or is it not going to be a thing? But it seems like now they're testing the waters at house shows, but also on television, and that's what's confusing me.
Yeah, it is.
I think it would just make much more sense for them to keep it in that, I guess, traditional sense. Like, hey, let's test the waters at house shows, see, gauge the audience there, and then use TV to first of all, make a decision, and then use TV to further that decision. And I still think you can do that and still have a successful build-up to WrestleMania and at WrestleMania. I just don't know why they're doing what they're doing right now. It really is confusing me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of their booking with her lately. She's proven that she can be one hell of a heel.
Do you think this is a case of too many cooks in the kitchen with WWE's writing staff?
I'm not too familiar with the amount of cooks, if you will, but it's definitely it definitely seems like there's not a lot of continuity with what they're doing, and not just this situation, but
a lot of
stuff. But yeah, but in this case, yeah, it just seems like it's almost like a poorly written sitcom where a different writer is doing each episode, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense to what you did last week. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. Sasha Banks again should have been heel in January. That's my answer. Not saying they dropped the ball and they can't do it, but it's like, do it. If you're gonna do it, just do it already. Like, you have everything there. You have two competitors that know each other well that would put on a great match at WrestleMania if you allow them to, and they could even do a great storyline angle, but you can't do a storyline angle if you don't have concrete characters. I mean, you and I are familiar with creative writing. You can't. You got to know what you're doing with your characters, unless the rest of the scene doesn't make sense.
You know what? We're about a month away from WrestleMania at this point. I will be the first one to go on record. I will be back on this podcast and apologize to everyone if they can come out at WrestleMania and actually get me excited and shock me for whatever the hell they're doing between Bayley and Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Because at this point, it just seems very wishy-washy at best.
Too, and I don't want to necessarily speculate on WrestleMania matches right now because as we sit here, we don't have many concrete matches set. We know Asuka's going to fight somebody for the title, and we know that Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon, as far as the women go, are going to be in a mixed tag team match. And that's really it so far. And with the whole women's revolution thing, you have to wonder if, because before there used to be women get one match and that's it. That's all you get. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. But do they settle for 2 championship matches and then that lame-ass mixed tag team match and then that's it? Because I said it before, Bayley and Sasha, you don't need a title. You do not need a title for those two. Keep them out of the title picture if you want. And right now it seems like that's what it's going to be. But are they going to give them a match? And if so, is it going to actually be on the card? That right there is one of those things that if they put it on the card and they figure out what they're doing with Sasha Banks, let's say hopefully by the next Raw, which I don't think is going to happen, I would already be excited for that match because those two those two tore the house down in NXT. They'll do it again on the big show. So I don't know. I just kind of hope that they stick with the whole concept that women kind of are treated like equals now, and again, don't need a title match. You don't need to be named Ronda Rousey. Just be a regular old worker that wears the scrubs and does all the work, and still be a main event highlight match. Even if it's the first match, I don't care, but I'd rather see it be on the main card than a pre-show.
True.
With Renee Young talking over them. Lisp and all.
Oh.
That was mean, but I said what I said.
Matt the heel, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, but shit, between you and Mr. Wrestling 6 lately, man, I am clearly the babyface of the three.
We're dastardly, we know.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. This women's revolution, not just with the WWE, but with wrestling in general right now, seems to be a sticking point, and a very important point that is continually being pushed at the moment, and that is something that both Matt and I want to see done positively.
Yeah, across the board.
Across the board, not just with one promotion or one company. And we kind of bring this up now because if you're not familiar, you do have Ring of Honor going through a tournament to crown their first ever women's heavyweight champion.
Women's of Honor. Women of Honor champion. Wow,
It's
hard to get out. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome belt. If you haven't checked out the belt, there's pictures of it online.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, it's a cool ass belt. We bring all this up because it wasn't something that I noticed, but you noticed. So far, the first round of the tournament is almost over at this point.
Yeah, there's one match left.
And minus a few YouTube
episodes.
Episodes or YouTube broadcasted matches.
Yeah.
These have all been dark matches at events. And, they're not on the main card at all. That's... I hate to say this because I'm a huge Ring of Honor fan, but that's kind of shitty on their part.
That's really shitty, yeah.
I really don't know what to say. And Matt and I were discussing this before we started this episode, but there are some factors that might play into that so far, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, but their Honor Club streaming service just started recently, but it started later than they had initially expected it to. I don't know if that plays a part in all this. And then, being that they do have the Honor Club streaming service available now, that streaming service is a lot like the New Japan service, where you do have every event that they're doing available on the streaming service. For more information on Honor Club, you can check that out over at 20x20crew.com/podcast/Honor Club. But yeah, that's other than the delay of their streaming service, I don't know. I really don't have any other thing that I can come up with as to why these women's matches to crown their first women's champion are all dark matches.
Yeah, it's a little mind-boggling for me too. And to fill you guys in, so we talked about the YouTube show. You can catch that every Wednesday. The Women of Honor show. By show, I mean a single match every week. So yeah, they started doing this Women of Honor tournament. The first round's about done. There's still one more match to be done, which will be in the pre-show of the Ring of Honor 16th anniversary show. That's coming up very soon here. And you not only that is that the only place you could see them as a pre-Honor Club, but you have a weekly TV show that's an hour-long TV show, and you never mention anything about women at all. If you didn't watch YouTube, you would say, I didn't even know they had women wrestling on Ring of Honor. Or you went to a Ring of Honor show and you saw the Women of Honor matches live, like we've seen them at live events. You would be like, I just thought they just didn't do women's wrestling. You know? And then you hear like, oh, they're doing a tournament for a women's title. Like, they must get a bunch of outsiders because they don't have contracted female wrestlers, but they do. They really do. It's really weird that this is the how they do things. And if you're going to have a championship belt be released, you have to. We talk about this. We've talked about it on the show. We've talked about it. You and I have just talked about it all the time with titles. I.e. the Universal title. It's got to mean something. It's got to represent something. And if you are a championship that is only defended on pre-shows and YouTube channels when you have a TV show and pay-per-views and it's not defended on those markets or platforms, that says that title means absolutely nothing, unfortunately. It's like, okay, you guys can play here and you can have your little belt, but it doesn't mean anything compared to what we have.
Man, I hate to say this, but now that you say that, this Women of Honor title, even before it crowns its first champion, is right up there with the Intergender Championship.
Yeah.
That was created by
oh God, yeah,
Mr. No Chin.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
And the Universal title that is currently held by Brock Lesnar. That's some pretty infamous company right now.
Yeah, it's not a good start, really. I mean, the final round is going. They have announced that it will be decided at Supercard of Honor.
Well, that's great.
That's good. Well, here's the thing: I'm hoping it's on the actual card, not on the pre-show. Like so the 16th anniversary is going to have the final match of the first round and the first match of the quarterfinals both on the pre-show, and it's a really good card. I admit. But there's no room to fit at least one of those matches. Not one. That quarterfinal match, maybe, to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're doing this. And I understand the argument now of you have the Honor Club, and all of your events are going to be on the Honor Club. And that's cool. That's great. That being said, even though I could see it, it's the same thing when I talked about with the Sasha Banks-Bayley match. I could see the pre-show for WrestleMania, but I still know it's a pre-show, and I know that it doesn't mean as much as the stuff on the WrestleMania card. Because that stupid mixed tag team match means more than Bayley versus Sasha Banks, even though only about a half of those people can actually wrestle still. And I'm talking to you, Triple H. Hashtag villain. But and so they're going to be on the main show. But Bayley and Sasha Banks, if they're on the pre-show, it's just like you don't matter. You go do your thing. It's like Austin Aries and Neville last year, best match of the night, and it happened at like 4:00 in the afternoon.
4:00 in the afternoon,
and that's just horseshit. And am I going to say that Brandy Rhodes versus Tenille Dashwood, which is the quarterfinal match scheduled for 16th anniversary, is a top tier match? No, I'm not. But you're trying to promote a brand new championship and you're trying to push women's wrestling. You got to treat it with more respect than a pre-show.
Agreed. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to treat it with a little more respect because you and I are going to go down the brackets.
Let's do it.
I'm not very familiar with most of these wrestlers, but there's always YouTube for those of you who are not like myself. I plan to go do some homework and prepare myself to see these talents in the ring in the future because I'm genuinely excited. And that's another thing about this whole tournament is they're bringing indie wrestlers from
all over the place,
all over the damn place.
Yep.
To take part in this tournament to crown the first ever women's champion. And I'm excited. I'm excited at all of these contestants and their futures in the business because if they're important enough to be brought into this tournament, they've got to be doing something right. With that said, the first round went like this. Mandy Leon pinned Madison Rayne. Jessie Brooks lost to Kelly Klein.
The gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. That's an awesome gimmick there. Let me
Yeah.
tell you,
She's badass.
she is badass.
She's definitely badass.
I haven't seen much of her, but what I have seen, I have really really liked. HZK lost to Mayu Iwatani.
Yeah. So they got a lot of people from well, I say a lot, but a few people from World Wonder Ring Stardom, based out of Japan. It's an all women wrestling out of Japan, and I'm pretty sure she's one of them.
Yes, another hot promotion out there for, for women's wrestling.
Yeah.
Probably the premier women's promotion at this point.
In Japan or just altogether?
Altogether, that I
it's
can,
one of them, yeah, for
that
sure.
I can think of.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We have Deonna Purrazzo submitting Holidead.
That's an intriguing girl. Deonna Purrazzo is really cool. I'm really glad that she's in this tournament. She kind of got the raw on the deal in WWE. Holly Dead is a really, really intriguing character to watch. I started watching a little bit in this wrestling promotion called Shine. It's an all-women's promotion based out of Florida. And she's a really intriguing character. I mean, I'm talking licking the heads of the audience, and just the stuff that comes out of her mouth is really
That's some
bizarre.
bushwhacker shit right there, let me tell you.
Minus the weird strut. Yeah, she's up there with them.
I wonder if she eats cans of sardines and shit, too. You think she eats a lot of sardines?
I mean, if she's licking heads, I would hope not. But
I don't know. I'm of the opinion that if you haven't tried it, you shouldn't knock it yet. So maybe eating sardines and licking people's heads is kind of a good thing. You never know.
yeah, we'll see.
Deonna Purrazzo holds the only submission in the first round so far. Obviously, there's one more bout in the first round to take place.
Yeah.
But so far, she holds the only submission. You also have Jenny Rose losing to Kagetsu.
Yeah.
Via pin. We're going to skip over the other bracket for that section, and then we have Stacey Shadows losing to Neo Dashwood, who, if you're not familiar, used to be Emma in the WWE.
Yep.
Hello, nurse.
Indeed.
And Karen Q losing to Brandy Rhodes, wife of Cody.
She's weird. She's got a last name. How's that work?
Well, apparently she's a very smart businesswoman, and she was able to avoid that pitfall.
Yeah.
So kudos to her, and also hello, nurse.
Yeah.
We skipped over one of the brackets in the first round because it hasn't happened yet. That is the last match that has not taken place in the first round, and that's Hana Kimura against Sumi Sakai. But after that match, you will have the second round intact and ready to be played out.
To me personally, I have my picks on who's going to win this thing, but Sumi Sakai is one of those that I hope if she doesn't win it, well, I don't see her winning it. I really hope that she has a long run because she's been in Ring of Honor since almost the beginning. And she's a huge part of the women starting to finally get more respect within that company. Just a great worker. I've been privileged to see her compete live a few times, and she's a hell of a worker. Puts on great matches, and her and Kimura are going to have a great match.
I hope so. Like I said, these participants weren't just picked all willy-nilly.
Yeah.
They're here for a reason, and they can all perform, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see the rest of the tournament and also what they do outside of this tournament, whether they stick with the promotion or not.
Yeah. I was a little surprised that Madison Rayne took on Manny Leon in the first round. That could have been easily a semifinal round match if they booked it right.
Very true.
Madison Rayne spent a lot of time in TNA or Impact Wrestling, and she's definitely improved as an in-ring worker. I'm a fan of hers, and I was a little bummed to see her get eliminated in the first round. But Manny Leon is a really good worker. I don't see her getting past Kelly Klein. Personally,
I don't either. I don't want to sit here and play favorites, but if I had to book that match, I say Kelly Klein over Mandy Leon.
Kelly Klein wins. Yeah, I think so too. My only worry about this, and I don't want to speculate much, but Brandy Rhodes, first of all, to me is the only one that I'm aware of, because there's a couple names on here that I'm not too familiar with their work. Brandy Rhodes is one of those that I just feel that shouldn't be in this tournament. If you haven't seen her in ring work, it's pretty bad. She's definitely trying. I'm not saying she's no business in a wrestling ring whatsoever, but I don't like the fact that she's in this tournament. I don't like the fact that she defeated Karen Q in the first round, because Karen Q is a phenomenal worker. I have a feeling that Brandy Rhodes is gonna make it to the finals, and I'm not big of a fan of that.
I'm not either, and I think what you're hinting at here is her significant other having a lot to do with Ring of Honor, and there might be some backstage politicking going on. Hey, let's face it.
He wouldn't be the first Rhodes to do that.
Exactly. He wouldn't be the first Rhodes to do that, and I'm sure we'll cover a lot of that information on other episodes, especially anniversary episodes. But yeah, as unfortunate of an idea that is, I am leaning the same way. I think she does make it to the finals, and do I think she's worthy of that? No, she needs more in-ring work. A
lot of in-ring work.
But unfortunately, I think they're going to use her fame and name to help progress the tournament and the overall amount of eyes on the product. It's a double-edged sword. It always is a double-edged sword when you have stuff like that happen.
Yeah.
I look at it this way: as unfortunate as it is, with her being in the tournament, will it expose the product more and get more people to see workers like Mandy Leon and Kelly Klein and Tennille Dashwood? Hell yeah.
Yeah, it would.
So, I mean, it's not necessarily a completely bad thing.
Sure.
But again, it is unfortunate.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But it also goes back to what we already talked about as we started with this topic. Another way that would help promote all these other wrestlers that you mentioned was promote it on your show. Talk about the Women's of Honor tournament. And I think finally they are, and it's great, but it was after the fact. It was this showcase these two wrestlers and then give you a quick 20-second highlight of the match and show you who won, which I'm not a big fan of that either. You shouldn't spoil the matches, but they should have had have the segments, even if it's you knew when the tournament was going to start, you knew who the participants were beforehand, so do it throughout multiple episodes where we talk about 4 wrestlers each show. I mean, it's not complicated. I don't know why they're making this so difficult, and that would promote the talent even better if you say, okay, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is how you can watch it. You want to see this match, do it on this, and you see this match, or put it on the actual show, because as much as I love Ring of Honor, there's still matches that it's like, well, you could have gone without that match, probably. And then you can say that about any promotion. And it's like, okay, this is a big deal. This is a big tournament. So therefore, showcase it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's anytime you introduce a title, you gotta pretty much put it on a gold platter for the fans. Like, this is a big deal. Watch this tournament, and you didn't give them a reason to. And if Brandy Rhodes is their gold platter to put it on, that's terrible business.
Yeah,
terrible business for me.
It'll be a horrible start to a very promising situation.
Yeah.
Really quick, I'm going to shout out to Shimmer Wrestling. Thank you for following us on Twitter.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Chicago, yes.
Chicago Women's Wrestling. Go support it. They've been around since 2005, in case you didn't know. And if you're going to be in New Orleans for WrestleMania, they do have a show on the 7th of April.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find more ticket information and stuff through our website at 20x20crew.com/podcast/shimmer.
And, for your wrestling fans out there, for your WWE fans, I should say, out there, you might recognize their champion. Their Shimmer champion is currently Mercedes Martinez, who competed in the Mae Young Classic. Real badass woman right there. So definitely check it out. Represent Chicago. And again, thank you for that. I think it's about time to pay some bills.
Yes, let's pay some bills.
Let's do it.
Hang in there. We'll be back. We're gonna go pay some bills. We'll be right back. This episode of the 20 by 20 crew is sponsored by Amazon Prime. Sign up for a free 30-day trial and you get instant access to thousands of movies and television episodes. You get to borrow Kindle ebooks. You also get unlimited free 2-day shipping with no minimum order size. You don't have to purchase. You can cancel anytime and still show the 20 by 20 crew some love. You can sign up for Amazon Prime through the 20 by 20 crew by visiting our website at 20x20crew.com/podcast/Amazon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support. And now let's get back to the show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back from paying some bills, and we're just having a discussion during the break here about the meaning of titles and title reigns, and what some of the pros and cons that go along with title belts, and the duration of a championship run. And one thing I was trying to explain to Matt, with this whole Brock Lesnar thing, going back to Brock Lesnar and the way he treats the Universal title, or any title for that matter these days, you have a situation where he doesn't care about the business. Essentially, the belt is just a prop to him, and even if a promotion has that situation with their titles, you have to use that prop effectively in your story, and I think that's what Brock Lesnar fans don't necessarily understand all the time, is that he is not one to advance the story at all, because he doesn't care. I was explaining to Matt that there was a lot of hubbub for those of you who used to watch WCW when it was around. There was a lot of negative sentiment towards the way Dusty Rhodes would book the finishes of matches, especially title matches, for the longest time in the especially in the early 90s for WCW, when Dusty had the book, and he would a lot of the title matches for their heavyweight title would end either in disqualifications or some unfortunate events, but there was a clean win or a clean loss in the ring was few and far between, and I feel that it just hurt. It would hurt title reigns, title runs. It would hurt the level of importance of whatever belt that was happening to. Your thoughts on this opinion of mine, and I'll leave it at that, because I think what it boils down to, it is just an opinion. It's kind of splitting hairs, but I still want to know what you think. I'm genuinely interested.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about disqualifications and count-out finishes, when they're used sporadically, it's totally fine. I mean, it's part of wrestling. But you mentioned, and you're a huge WCW fan, a lot bigger WCW fan than I ever was or could ever be, and you saying that the clean finishes were few and far between in comparison to DQs and countouts.
More so DQs than anything.
More so DQs, yeah. And going back and watching some of those, I definitely know what you're talking about. And I tell you what, as a fan of any match, having a finish like that can definitely lead to a frustrated fan in me. That speaks to just anytime I see a DQ finish, I'm not a fan of them, because they tend to happen at the worst possible times for me. When the matches are really picking up, it's here comes somebody to screw it up, and now we just have nothing. We just got fighting in the ring, and yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it, and I don't I mean, I do agree with the fact that it hurts the belt. I see what they're doing with, like, oh, the champ never lost cleanly, so he's still a champ, but you're not really raising prestige. You're more or less just trying to keep it where it's at, and being stagnant is a terrible thing to do in pro wrestling.
Because if you're the champ and you're winning via DQ, you're not losing the belt, but you're also not winning.
You're not winning, yeah.
And I think a lot of people lose sight of that that fact. Something that you and I can both relate to is the NWO. You watched a lot of NWO stuff. Think back to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did we see Hogan lose clean or win clean, for that matter?
It was.
You know, how many times Hall and Nash, 6 when he had the Cruiserweight title, it was a few and far between situation with any of those titles, tag titles, singles titles.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we're probably going to get laughed at and the eyes might be rolled against us for this, but we're going to bring this group up again. We're going to bring up Bullet Club. And you look at, we'll just bring up, my wife's going to laugh at this one, but we'll bring up Kenny Omega, for example. And you have his U.S. championship reign. You know, the Young Bucks would come out there, but they wouldn't do a whole lot. They were just there for the most part. You got a ton of clean finishes.
Pavlov would be proud of me, because the first time I saw Kenny Omega seconded by the Young Bucks, I immediately thought, great, here we go again.
Yeah.
It's going to be the NWO shit all over again. And much to my surprise, that didn't happen.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're out there, and there's times where they might be a distraction for a bit, but the match still ends cleanly. And it usually, let's say it's a 30-minute match, they might become a nuisance around the 10-15 minute mark, and then that's it. So you still got a good 20 to 15 minutes of clean wrestling, and it does two things really for this case. It raises the prestige of that championship belt, and it raises the prestige of the Bullet Club, because here you have a champion that just beat its top contender at that moment, and it did it again, and it did it again. And whether it was the U.S. title or the tag titles with GOD, or the junior heavyweight titles with the Bucks, or whoever was champs within the Bullet Club, for the most part, you get clean finishes. And again, there's interferences, and that's okay if done wisely, and it's especially going to be okay when you have a heelish faction. Sometimes they're going to interfere. You see that especially a lot in the ROH side of things, and that's more of the American style than it is the Japanese style. I mean, you saw that during Cody's reign, where the wife would get involved a little more than she should. However, there were still a lot of clean finishes in Cody's matches, and again, it's what we talked about with the Lesnar situation, where even if the outcome is the way that you predicted, what happens between the opening bell and the final bell, what happens between those bells is what matters the most. And if you're still putting on a 5-star match, or trying to put on a 5-star match, I should say, that's what matters. That's what raises that prestige for that belt is the performances. I know I just kind of segue a little bit from the original question. I'm not a fan of when we end it with DQs and countdowns, because I just feel that's a lazy finish. And it's a very stagnant finish where nobody lost, nobody won. You kind of wasted everybody's time. And I don't feel that way all the time for DQ finish, but yeah, for the most part, it's not good for me. It's a no-go.
In the background, we are watching WrestleMania X7 taking place in Houston, Texas. And what sparked my interest in the topic was a match between Eddie Guerrero and Test. Test came into the match, the European champion, and he lost it to Eddie Guerrero, and Eddie Guerrero won it via interference from Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not completely shitting on that match, but it just brought up the idea, like, there you go. And you know, look, the European title is not around anymore. Not that it had anything going for it while it was around anyway, but
Yeah.
Can you think of one particular title match that you saw that you were completely pissed off by because it ended without a clean finish?
I mean, I could go. One that popped in my head right away was kind of the whole issue with where TNA went with the downfall. And I know there's people that's going to disagree with me on this because he's such a huge draw right now. But EC3's World Heavyweight title reign, every single match had a unclean finish, or it had like 30 guys interfere on his behalf, and he'd win the title, keep the title that way. That TNA World Heavyweight Championship was complete bullshit for a good 2 years while he had it, or however long he had it, because it never had like a legit clean finish. It was always interference, or it was always a no contest of some kind, and it never stood up to me. And during a time when you had to rely on him and him alone, because the company was treating its like past guys, or I'm using quotation marks here, but past guys, old guys who can't do it anymore, guys like AJ Styles, if you believe that. They put the company on his shoulders, and he's a good in-ring worker. But that whole thing was, every time that he had a legit challenger, it was his on-screen aunt would just send the entire locker room to interfere on his behalf, and then he'd win the title. It would just end in chaos, and chaos would be the word that I would describe the entire product at that time. So it was multiple occurrences, but that's the one that sticks out to my head the most, was that whole title reign, because that was one of the things that helped, and I use this term loosely, helped the company get in the shitty situation that it was in for so long, that they're trying so desperately to claw themselves out of.
I don't know who was responsible for the book in that situation. I know it wasn't Dusty. Dusty had already passed. Mm-hmm. But if I had to point fingers, I know some of the AJ Styles run was definitely Vince Russo.
Yeah.
And maybe not him by himself, but, I mean, he did have a hand in the book. There's always Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, there's always that Hall of Famer.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry I had to do it to you. But unfortunately, it's a reality that you're going to have to live with, my friend.
Yeah, I'll probably lose the rest of my hair this year, thanks to Jeff Jarrett being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think at this point we know for sure that, if you had any doubts, and again, I think this is like a WWE fan thing, that Hall of Fame is just such bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever needed a class that was proof of that, it's the 2018 class.
And that's no disrespect to the Dudley Boys.
Yeah, no.
Or Ivory.
Right. This has no...
Or even Hillbilly Jim.
Oh, God, no. Hillbilly Jim belongs there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he belongs in just about any wrestling Hall of Fame.
We're talking about those other two guys.
Man. Jeff Jarrett, I mean, I don't even know. And Goldberg, too. Like, I'm sorry. To me, Goldberg, don't get me wrong, did he have his importance in the business? Yes, of course. But is he Hall of Fame material? I could think of quite a few people that need to go in a Hall of Fame before he does.
Oh, yeah.
So, but getting back to topic, this whole thing with, dirty finishes or unclean finishes in title matches or with titles in general, it's a problem. It's a huge problem. That's one thing I don't want to see get overutilized in New Japan Pro Wrestling now that they're trying to become more westernized.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. is it okay to use it sporadically?
Yeah, well, that's with anything, though.
Yeah.
Anything, if you're using anything sporadically and not in a regular manner, not in a consistent manner, of course it's going to have more effect. I mean, whether it be a finish or a chair shot or a table spot, you know, think of those three things have all become so oversaturated in the business. You know, it seems like you can't go a TV taping or a live event or a pay-per-view now without some sort of a table spot or a chair spot or some dirty finish.
Definitely loses its edge when you do it all the time.
It does. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. One title match with a bad finish that sticks out in my mind, and this is probably news to you, but it is from the 1991 edition of the Great American Bash.
Okay.
Going into the match, the WCW World Heavyweight Championship was vacant, and the match was between Lex Luger and Barry Windham in a steel cage. This was a clusterfuck of a match. Let me tell you, the only good thing about this match was Barry Windham, because Barry Windham can actually wrestle, and I don't want to say he was at the complete top of his game at this point, but he was still up there. I mean, Barry Windham can work. The match was in a steel cage, and Luger defeats Barry Windham with I'm going to use the word help in quotation marks, and I'll explain here in a minute, but Luger defeats Barry Windham with the help of Harley Race. Now, if you're going to turn heel in a match through interference, you kind of got to have that interference like actually take place. Like it has to, it doesn't, you can't have it like half-ass happen. You know, you just can't have a guy show up with the intent to interfere, but then not really interfere in order for it to go over. I mean, that makes sense to you, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, so in this match, Harley Race shows up to help Lex Luger turn heel, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's only one problem. Harley Race cannot get into the cage. So, so what happens? Harley Race stays outside of the cage and just kind of guides Lex Luger into being a heel. I'm pretty sure it's on the network, on WWE's network. Again, if you need more information on obtaining a subscription, you can go to 20x20crew.com/podcast/WWE network. That's all one word. It is the 1991 edition of the Great American Bash. It's under the WCW pay-per-views.
Oh, it's on there.
It's on there.
We're watching it.
So Matt's going to see firsthand the kind of bullshit I'm talking about. But yeah, Harley Race does not enter the cage, and he more or less makes the like hand signals or gestures like, "Hey, give Barry Windham the pile driver. It's time. It's time." You know, he doesn't go in there and physically help Lex Luger, although he's supposed to. Now, I don't know why this happens the way it happens, but it happened that way. So Luger wins the title, the vacant title.
Yeah.
In the cage, and if I'm not mistaken, they had problems with the cage being stuck.
Okay.
And because I think it was, I think the cage came down and it was crooked.
Okay.
And so when the pyro went off initially to show that the cage was coming down, the announcers, who were, I believe, Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross at the time, they had to kind of like fill time so that they could correct the cage to bring the cage down to begin with. So that, you know, if that wasn't and then the belt too. Oh boy. Folks, if you get a chance, look at this fucking belt. But the reason the belt looks this way, for those of you who don't know, I believe this is one of the first times that they had to have their own WCW World Heavyweight Championship, because the NWA, the big gold belt, had been taken by Flair.
That was his belt.
By Ric Flair. That was his belt. For those of here's a backstory that you're going to find pretty interesting. So at this time, Ric Flair wants out of WCW. I'll give you the short version. Ric Flair wants out of WCW. There's a big hubbub about him leaving. They want to keep him, but they don't want to pay him whatever he's asking. And back then, if you were the champion, you had to put a deposit on the title belt. So the initial deposit for the title belt that Ric Flair had was $25,000. Okay, so Flair bought that deposit. Okay, they wanted the title back. He didn't want to give the title back because they didn't want to refund him his $25,000. And to make matters worse, he wouldn't give them back the belt unless they paid him the $25,000 plus interest. So now he's asking for even more money before giving them the title belt back. Well, he eventually leaves and goes to the WWF at the time. And if you go back and look at the programming leading up to his first appearance, Bobby Heenan actually comes out on WWF television with that belt.
Yeah.
Do you know how that belt got in their possession? Ric Flair got so pissed at WCW for not negotiating with him that he FedExed the belt to Vince McMahon.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that.
So,
or reading that, I should say.
But getting back to the 91 Great American Bash here, their WCW title belt, they were in the process of commissioning their own custom title belt, but they didn't have one on hand.
Yeah.
So what they did was they had Dusty Rhodes bring one from Florida Championship Wrestling, and all they did was fuse a big gold plate over the FCW logo on the belt. That's why it looks so shitty.
I gotta ask a question.
Sure.
It's not related to the match, but just the show. Why is the main event a mixed tag team match with the... Or is it a mixed tag? Yeah,
it is a mixed tag team match.
Why is this after the Luger match?
If I remember correctly, they had problems with the state's athletic commission.
Okay.
Because it is illegal to pit a woman versus a man in combat sports
at this time
in that state.
Okay.
That was the reasoning behind it. They had to push the match back because of that. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. But
why even do it then?
but that's how they don't even end this pay-per-view, this huge show with the heavyweight title match.
That's bad booking right there. And it's not even on the same level, but that's like watching old school WWF house shows, live events at the time they were called, and you have your main event, and then afterwards you'd be like a bunch of scrubs, like it's gonna go till time limit, till curfew as it's called, because we got all this time to fill now.
And if I'm not mistaken too, I think this is the last Great American Bash was a tour. I think after this they just made it a pay-per-view.
Okay.
So it became just one event as opposed to a multi-city tour.
Okay.
But yeah, this is one of those matches that you're just like, what the hell is going on? Why even do the match up this way? But it happened, ladies and gentlemen, and you can find it on the WWE Network. I don't know how edited this is. I don't have an original recording of it, but if you guys want to hit us up on social media, Facebook.com/20x20crew or on Twitter @20x20crew. Hit us up and let us know if this is an edited version of the event or the actual unedited footage or the original footage.
And it's important to say that going back to championship things, like it's not just clean finishes, because let's not forget that the finger poke of doom was a clean finish. And it's about what you do with that championship belt.
I don't know. Do you really feel that the finger poke of doom was a clean finish? Technically it is,
technically,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. For those of you who don't know what the finger poke of doom is, it took place...
What's that about? What's going on here? What just happened here?
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner and new WCW World Heavyweight Champion,
What stinks?
Hollywood
Oh
Hogan!
It was a Nitro. I want to say 99, maybe? No, 98, I'd have to say. But, usually look up the date, but it was between Kevin Nash, the champion, versus, I believe, a returning Hollywood Hogan. And this was also during a time where we had already had a split NWO with the Black and White and the Wolfpack. And these two were facing off for the title. And they're facing off, and it's built up as this huge match. Like this is what we wanted to see. And then Kevin Nash puts out his index finger, Hogan puts out his index finger. Let me get this right, and he proceeds to gently push Kevin Nash with his index finger. And then a LeBron James worthy flop from Kevin Nash occurs, and Hogan pins Kevin Nash to win the WCW World Heavyweight title.
So at this point, it was 19 years ago.
19 years ago,
Yeah,
okay. So 1999.
January 4th, 1999 is when the finger poke of doom happened. And then so Hogan cleanly pins Kevin Nash to take the title.
Yeah.
It's technically a clean finish because, there was no interference or whatever, but yeah, horrible, absolutely horrible title match. And keep in mind, Matt and I are fans of the NWO, so for us to sit there and call bullshit on that match, I think that speaks volumes.
I mean, that wasn't the first time, though, that was the first time for that belt. Wasn't the last time, I should say.
Right.
Because we saw Jeff Jarrett lie down for Hogan.
And again, there was
legit backstage stuff.
Yeah, there was backstage stuff going on between, more than just them, but backstage stuff nonetheless, politicking and what have you.
Do you, if you remember that night, Vince Russo came out and explained to the crowd. Would you have done that as a booker? Is that good to break kayfabe in that situation? You know
what? No, it's bad for business. It is completely bad for business.
I always felt that too.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, and here, if we can use that show as an example. So even back then, you had even for all the smart fans out there, even for all the smart marks that were out there. Obviously Dave Meltzer was around for quite some time already by then. You have all this information leaking out through the dirt sheets, the Wrestling Observers and the Pro Wrestling Torch. So, backstage news getting out and the breaking of kayfabe was already a thing, but you still had a little bit of kayfabe going on. And I think that's one of those instances where when that happened, when Russo came out of the back and took the time to explain what the hell just happened, if kayfabe wasn't broken already enough, it broke even more. There was just no recovering from that. You're airing the dirty laundry of your company in front of people on pay-per-view, no less. People actually paying to see you botch your own fucking show, which is it's pretty horrible in hindsight.
Yeah, I mean that title. I'm trying to find the exact date. I want to say it was a Bash at the Beach.
I think it was a Bash at the Beach.
I can't remember, but at that point, I'm looking at these title reigns. I mean, look at this: 1 day, 2 days, 6 days. I mean, and it goes on for quite some time. I mean, my goodness, it was just like, here, I don't want it anymore. Like, you have it. 29 days, 27 days. These are terrible.
Well, again,
championship reigns.
Again, I'm of the opinion, if you're going to have a title belt, just be a prop for your organization or your company. It's okay to treat it so, but do it convincingly. Don't sit there and just drop it just to drop it. Give it some story. Give it something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is just a prop, and there's no meaning behind it. There has to be some sort of meaning behind things like that. This kind of you usually get two types of fans when it comes to this subject. Either you have people who wholeheartedly believe in the prestige of whatever title we're talking about,
right?
Or you do get the people that are like, hey, it's just a belt, it's just a prop. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, David Arquette could be champion.
Exactly. I'm okay with both sets of those fans because I can see both points of view. But again, whether you're holding that title with a prestige or it's just a prop, and it's going to be used as a prop, you still have a responsibility to utilize it correctly, to put that title over however you're going to use it. And if you don't, let's face it, there are multiple repercussions. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but this whole Brock Lesnar thing, look at what he's doing. Not only is he shitting on that title, but it is now spilling over into the business aspect of things, where it's something that I'm now not understanding, because if this man is all about business and he wants to make money by doing what he did in places like Chicago, you're just hurting business. That means less people getting interested in the business, less people you have an opportunity to sell your t-shirts to.
Right.
Well,
and again, this is not, if you haven't figured it out by now, we are from the Chicago area, so we have Chicago pride. And so this next point it's based off facts, it's not based off of a Chicago fan. Let's look at one of the biggest moneymakers for WWE and NXT. Where NXT goes, they tend to fill out the arenas very quickly too. One of the hottest tickets in town. And they do these NXT takeover whatever city they're in. Most recent one they did was Philadelphia in January.
They'll be in Chicago in June.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because so every year they do an NXT Brooklyn. And the reason why they do a Brooklyn every year is because SummerSlam right now WWE has a partnership with Barclays.
The Barclays Center,
to
yes.
do, I don't know how long the contract is, but it's a multi-year deal. Therefore, they're able to do a guaranteed NXT TakeOver Brooklyn every single year, so long as the contract is current. And it's tied in with SummerSlam, which is the second biggest pay-per-view that WWE does every year, just only second to WrestleMania. Chicago has not been linked to any of the big four in WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. As far as the NXT TakeOver pay-per-views, they had one last year tied in with, I don't remember the pay-per-view, to be honest with you.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I could tell you the NXT card, but I couldn't tell you the pay-per-view it was linked with. And this year it's going to be linked with Money in the Bank. And again, it's one of the fan favorite pay-per-views, but it's not a big four pay-per-view. And my point is, well, NXT has only gone to Brooklyn multiple times and nobody else. It's going to Chicago for a second year in a row, and it's not even linked with a big four pay-per-view. So what does that say about how they feel about Chicago? And it's really weird that they said, hey, we're going to do this 35-second match in Chicago. I mean, you pissed off a Chicago crowd that is extremely passionate about professional wrestling. There's a reason why All In is happening in Chicago. And I'm not trying to shit on any other city, but there's a reason why it's Chicago. The fans here are extremely passionate about professional wrestling. Extremely passionate. To the point where they'll buy your tickets to your bullshit house show. And
It's true.
it's true. They're
It's
that,
damn true.
Yeah, it's and so you're shitting on the Universal Championship, which you've been shitting on since he's won it, which was already being shitted on by the previous champion, Bill Goldberg.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he forgot about that. and now you're shitting on a very important fan base. And just because, the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 12 answer, why? Because I can. And it fucking sucks. Because as a fan, it's just like, I just want to I want to take every fan that continues to cheer for this guy and hug him. Because it's like, I don't know, do you need to be loved? I don't get it. What do you see in this fucking guy? Just stop supporting this guy. Because if he could, he would literally take you, grab you by the shirt, and spit the biggest loogie in your face. And then steal your wallet while he's at it. Because that's what he's doing.
And you know what? That brings up another point here with being a heel and being a babyface. He's doing neither.
No, he's not.
Because if he were being a proper heel, you would have fans heated enough to come back and buy enough tickets to fill that venue and root against him or root for him, no matter, depending on what point of view he's coming from. And that's not happening, folks. To my knowledge, they did not sell out the United Center. I can't remember the last time they had a sold-out show, speaking of the WWE. So it's not paying off at all. Let's go back. Ole Anderson, for those of you who don't know, Ole Anderson was one of the original
Four Horsemen.
One of the original Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a brain fart, folks. One of the original Four Horsemen. At one point, he was the booker for WCW.
Yeah.
And there's a statement that he made ages ago, and here comes Harley Race. So we're watching Harley Race come out during this Great American Bash 1991 match, and again, if you're paying attention, you're gonna see Harley not enter the cage and just tell Luger to turn heel. But anyway. Ole Anderson said one time something that still rings true to this day. There's okay. So Ole Anderson once said that if you take wrestler A and pit them against wrestler B and have wrestler B win, but then also have the reverse happen, have wrestler A win, sooner or later you're going to run out of shit to show.
Yeah.
And the reason I mention that statement is because of all these unclean finishes. I get that. I really do. I do get it. You definitely have to become creative with the finishes of matches. I understand that. But what is going on with shit like Brock Lesnar's putting out? It's killing the business more than pitting your wrestler A versus wrestler B and getting a clean finish.
Yeah.
Let
me ask you this, because the argument that I continue to get is, I get that kind of that Bullet Club answer currently where WWE is fine. And I'm not saying they're not. Obviously they're a rich company, but is it because it's WWE and there's a lot of casual non-wrestling fans that kind of don't know any better when it comes to stuff like this? Is this the reason why Brock Lesnar works? Is Brock Lesnar pulling this shit? Does it work anywhere else? Could you still be fine and have your top champion? And let's assume here that the Universal title is higher up than the WWE title, because that's certainly how it's built. Any title that AJ Styles holds is the top tier title. That's just a wrestling point of view right there. But the Universal title is the title that the WWE builds for whatever reason. Because of Brock Lesnar, as the title. So for all intents and purposes, he is the top tier. He's the number one champion, and he's ruining that title. But it's WWE, and there's a lot of casual fans that just kind of watch it for the soap opera aspect of WWE, of professional wrestling. if he does this in Ring of Honor or even like an Impact Wrestling that's kind of on its trying to rise from the ashes kind of situation, or if he does it, in New Japan, does it work?
No, it doesn't work.
Does it hurt the company?
It hurts the company. If you think back, go back and look at old New Japan before Shinsuke Nakamura had the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He restored prestige and respect and meaning into their Intercontinental title. Was it an overnight process? No,
absolutely not.
But it took him about 3 years to do.
Yeah.
And then in along the same veins, although there wasn't a title necessarily associated with the situation, you had Ace. Ace did it with the entire company for New Japan.
Yeah.
He put that company on his back.
Yep.
And carried it to what it is now.
Hiroshi Tanahashi is
yes.
who you're referring to, in case you didn't know who Ace was.
So yeah, if those, obviously business was horrible before that, and it took Tanahashi putting the company on his back in order to make it successful and make it work and keep it from going under. It took Shinsuke Nakamura, his performance, to restore respect and meaning to their Intercontinental Championship. It just doesn't work no matter where you go. I think the only reason it is even halfway surviving business as it is for the WWE at this point is because they just have a lot of money and they have a diverse stream of revenues coming in.
Yeah.
They're right now all of the other organizations out there. I would gather to say that they're not as kid friendly.
No.
When it comes to content.
Right.
I'm not saying they're out and outright vulgar, but it is definitely a less of a kiddie programming as opposed to the WWE.
Right.
The WWE is very kid friendly. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but also you've got a guy with a belt there who's not doing anything to sell to those kids, and that's a big problem because you're alienating your audience is what you're doing. And it'd be one thing if it was just one demographic and it was just kids, but no, he's alienating everybody. And I'm not saying he's the sole reason for them not being able to sell out house shows and whatnot, but it's a big part.
Especially after what happened.
After what happened
in Chicago. Because now if you going to the next Brock Lesnar advertised show, it's like, oh, how's he going to top that? Oh, I know. If I'm Vince McMahon, we're going to do it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But no, you got to go the other way. It's when it comes to championships, I guess the bottom line is here, no matter how you look at championship belts, if they're props or if they're not props, they, at the end of the day, just like anything else, it has to mean something. It's like what we talked about with characters in creative writing. If it doesn't mean anything, take it out. Take it out of what you're doing. Then it shouldn't exist. So you created a brand extension, and you have your world champion on SmackDown, and you said, okay, we're gonna have a world champion on Raw, and then here's a good idea: we're gonna have him never show up. And it's like to be in that room, and how many yes men said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's great. That's going to sell so many tickets." This is where I just say I have enough. Enough's enough. And then you have the audacity to try to sell a fucking WrestleMania match. It's like Roman Reigns is fighting who again? Who's that guy? Oh yeah, I forgot there was a Universal title. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's insulting that. And this is where I'm going to sound a little mean here, that I share an interest with a company with a fan base that just doesn't get it. And it's frustrating because they watch it more than I do, because I tend to turn it off now. And
a lot of people do.
Yeah, and it's just like, what are you seeing that I'm not? Where are you seeing entertainment value when it's, all we're doing is hyping up a match. We're not actually doing anything. We're not having one. I don't know. And then it's just championships in general. You know, and I feel the same way about not that it's advertised by any means, but the UK title. What was the point of that? What was the point of bringing the UK title? I know they had plans on doing a UK TV show that apparently is not happening, but what's the point of it's a beautiful belt, but what's the point of it?
Well, and even now,
You know?
I mean, look at that belt. That I mean, it sees a hell of a lot more action than the Universal title.
Yeah, I mean,
albeit not on WWE programming.
yeah, in progress, progress wrestling for sure. You know, it's as far as when it will be defended again. It's why, you know, why not just quietly defunct that title? It's a beautiful belt. It was a great idea. Tremendous tournament if you haven't watched that tournament. But you know, I love Pete Dunne. Absolutely love the Bruiserweight. But there's no point to it. So don't have it. The lesson here is if you're going to create a championship, same thing with the Women of Honor Championship we talked about earlier. If you're going to create a championship, it has to have meaning. It has to have respect behind it. Because without respect, it's just a belt. It's just an expensive belt. That's all it is.
True, very true. I wonder how many have they ran a clearance on the WWE Shop Zone for the Universal title, the replicas?
Yeah,
Are they like $20 now?
That's still too much for me for that belt. I don't buy defunct belts. Oh wait, it's not. Oh, breaking news! It's still an active title. You know what's funny too, real quick here is Naomi. She couldn't defend the title because of an injury. Oh, you're not gonna be able to defend the title because you have an injury. So they on screen made her relinquish the title because she couldn't defend it within 30 days.
Right.
Brock Lesnar has gone like 60 plus days without defending that title. It's like, oh, he's still our champion. Like, stop insulting our intelligence here. Like, it's
horrible, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that's the world we live in when it comes to WWE, unfortunately. And with that, we end our show. Thank you again for tuning in. I've been Matt.
I'm Joe.
Until next time, we'll see you in the ring.